David Marples is a professor and research fellow at the University of Alberta's Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies, and he joins me live now from Edmonton. It's good to speak to you again, Professor. Now, Jens Stoltenberg says that NATO is ready to defend itself against any threat from Moscow or Minsk, and Prigozhin, as we know, is in Belarus now, which is clearly a cause for concern for NATO. What are some potential scenarios that Stoltenberg could be worried about?
I think, first of all, the possibility of having tactical nuclear weapons on Belarusian territory. This is something that both Putin and Lukashenko declared about 10 days ago. And in fact, Lukashenko declared the weapons were already there, but the United States has denied ever seeing any evidence that they are, in fact, actually there. Second, a figure like Prigozhin is rather big for a small country like Belarus, which has not really got any major oligarchs and doesn't have any kind of private military companies operating on its territory. So the fact that he's there, I think, and suggests that there may be attempts either to incorporate him and his supporters into the Belarusian military or allow him training facilities to build up another version of the Wagner group inside Belarus, which could potentially attack Ukraine or cause other problems. So I think that's probably the main issues that the United States and others are being concerned about right now.
Well, analysts do say that Prigozhin is far from stepping back, and there's so much information that we don't know about everything that happened during the weekend, and that only time will tell on where this is all going to lead to. But the Wagner not only on the battlefield anymore, or Prigozhin, who was seen as the best military commander there at the front lines. Do you think that Ukraine has the upper hand here?
I think maybe temporarily Ukraine gained something out of this chaos in Moscow, but it would, of course, benefited a lot more if there had been a sustained clash between the two different forces, or in fact, if Prigozhin had actually reached Moscow. Then you would have seen, I think, a major upheaval. That hasn't happened. And in fact, now that the situation is a little bit clearer, I think the bigger question for Ukraine is whether Putin can maintain this kind of rigid control over all sectors of society that he's had up to this point? Or are we going to see future scenarios if the war goes badly? For example, other private military companies causing problems and maybe another uprising somewhere along the way.
Do you think that Putin would be able to maintain that rigid control that he's had so far?
I think it's doubtful. I mean, there's a real imbalance here between how Putin has treated any kind of dissent within his kingdom, let's say, and how he's treated an armed uprising where nobody has been brought to justice. Everyone has been pardoned. And the only thing that's really happened is the abolition of the Wagner group on Russian territory. So it looks like a weak response to what was something quite serious. And today, when he gave his speech, which he showed a little clip of, many people anticipated this would last an hour or two. It lasted 5 minutes. If he's only can speak for 5 minutes after a major episode like this, it suggests that maybe he's not absolutely clear what is going on and who to believe and what kind of advice he can be taking from his subordinates.
All right, Professor David Marples, thank you so much for being with us here on TR2 World once again.
You're very welcome.